Section 8.3. In these examples, they're asking us to determine what type of number the solutions are and how many exist. To do that, we'll use the discriminant, and the discriminant is the radicand from the quadratic formula. So here we're given this equation and comparing it to ax squared plus bx plus c, the standard form of a quadratic equation. We can see that a is equal to 1. The signs don't agree on our linear term, but a subtraction is the same as plus a negative. So b is equal to a -8 and c is equal to 16. To determine the solutions to this question, we'll now evaluate the discriminant. And again, that's the radicand in the quadratic formula. In other words, b squared minus 4ac. Plugging in the values that we have, we'll have a -8 for our b. It needs to be squared minus 4 times a times c, the values that were given in this equation. Well, -8 squared or multiplied by itself is 64. 4 times 1 times 16 is 64. 64 minus 64 is equal to 0. When the discriminant is equal to 0, it means that we have one repeated solution. So we will state that, one solution, and that it is rational. In the next problem that's given, we're asked the same question. So identifying the values of the coefficients on our quadratic equation, we have that a is equal to 1. Subtract 3 is the same as plus a negative, so that means b is equal to -3 and c is equal to 1. To determine how many solutions and what type they are, we'll use the discriminant. B squared means we'll put a -3 in place of our b and squared minus 4 times a times c. -3 squared is 9. Multiplying, we get a 4. Ending result, our discriminant is positive, which means we will have two different real number solutions. So two solutions. And because of the location of the discriminant in the quadratic formula, this is what goes underneath the radical. So when you take the square root of 5, that means we will end up with an irrational number or solution ultimately. So to answer what type they are, we are going to say that they are irrational conjugates. In this next example, to answer the question that's being asked, we will calculate the discriminant, but we need to be sure we have the correct values to plug in. Comparing the equation that's already in standard form with the standard form of a quadratic equation, we get that a is 2, b is equal to a -4 because of subtraction being the same as plus a negative, and c is equal to 6. The discriminant will give us the route to answer the questions being asked. B squared means we'll put a -4 in place of that and squared, minus 4 times a times c. -4 squared is 16, and multiplying 4 times 2 times 6 is going to give us an 8 times 6 is 48. We're clearly going to have a negative number here. We will end up with a -32. When our discriminant is negative, we end up with two different imaginary numbers. So as far as solutions, we have two solutions, and they are imaginary. conjugates.